Good
Morning.
Good morning.
We'll start this morning with pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Before I turn it over to Tom, we did get a thank you letter from Margie, from our district governor, saying thank you for the opportunity to celebrate your club's being chartered for 75 years. The evening was a delight to hear the history and view the scrapbooks. Congrats on your logo and name change. Best of luck. Thanks again. Continue to grow in Rotary. Randy and Margie Salmons. So just wanted to share that with you. Tom, would you like to take over there?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Anybody, anybody got something they'd like to celebrate today with a little happy about perhaps?
I got one on you, get
We'll go
down.
back here, you spoke up first. So.
My daughter Cheryl is spending a week with me from Colorado Springs.
Or she didn't want to come this morning?
She's a Paul Harris fellow, she'd be right at home.
Mr. Robinette, thank you.
I've got a couple, Paul and his wife, Pry, short for Priety, her mom is not quite left the 60s ever, as I think you can attest. But they were in, unfortunately, for Pry's dad's memorial service. Had a nice visit with them, and for those that hadn't heard, both my brother and my mom got COVID. Steve is back at work. Mom was given Paxlovid or however you pronounce it, pretty much right away, and that really did help.
Did you try the ivermectin?
No, Steve, we were able to talk him out of that. Just kidding.
There's a
I don't
good
think-
veterinary supply house you could.
Well, see, now it's good to know extra supplies.
Yeah.
Mom has an issue, now we know. But she's doing much better. She's actually, and I did caution her, I said the fatigue and the brain fog are gonna be with you a bit. I mean, she's 95, so how much fatigue is 95 and how much fatigue is this, who knows? But anyway, they're doing good.
I got both those now. Dave, glad to see you.
I missed a couple meetings and,
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're glad you're back.
happy to be back.
We're awesome. We're very thrilled.
It's good to see Dave. I heard he got a hole in one. I've been waiting for a month to use that.
So you gave somebody the finger? Was the
Oh,
doctor?
God.
Not anymore.
Worse than mine. And I came in with no money today, and within I ordered my coffee and I said, just a minute, don't bring it up. I gotta go get some cash. I walked in here and three guys were digging in their wallets to give me a $20 bill. Very happy. Dave was first, and I appreciate it. I Venmoed him the money back, so he'll have it probably sometime this week.
There is a little note that how lives in turn, but anyway, my daughter turns out that she graduated in the same class as Mary Kay West, who happens to be Jerry's Nolan's wife.
Wow.
So I found that out yesterday. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Oh, I've got a few happy bucks. One is for this nice hat that Tom bought me, and it's Rotary Youth Camp is on the back. So Kansas City Monarchs on the front. So my Kansas City folks will be happy with me this year. Also to ride up, I'll be wearing some Kansas City gear. Yep.
Brian?
My daughter is all set in Charleston, South Carolina, so set up.
Is that a sad dollar?
Well, I know, it's both. Happy for her. So,
Got a new place to go visit.
Got someplace to go.
yeah, she's meeting people already, so that's nice.
Did your wife come back?
I'm sure you.
She reluctantly came back. Yes.
Very, very good. Mr. Courtney?
Yeah, I went to Lutheran North track meet Saturday. My grandson started pole vaulting 6 weeks ago.
Oh, my God.
And he ended up coming in third at this this was the sectionals. He did he did 11 feet 6 inches and the other two fits did 12. But he's only been doing it 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. So they're going to state in Jefferson City Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
It's
I
like,
mean, that's like to the ceiling probably,
well, that's gonna be not quite, it's not quite.
Behind-
but still, it's up there.
Nice.
Well, Ruth, here you go. Thank you. Well, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Edwin Valerde. I just call him Los Angeles, he's from California. He's the chairman of the Rotary Action Group for Diabetes. I've known him probably for at least 7 or 8 years. We've had the pleasure of do some Rotary cycling together over the last 5 or 6 years, whether it be in Tucson or we actually rode together from Toronto, Niagara Falls, Ontario, up to Toronto for the Rotary Convention. Several years ago, we rode from Los Angeles down to San Diego, just in time to watch the new class of district governors check into the Marriott there. He's very active in Rotary, very active in his community. And I'm gonna let you talk about the epic ride that's coming up very soon.
It looks like he did the cycling.
Good morning, Edwin. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good to be here. I love the new name, by the way, of the club.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So are we ready?
We're ready.
Go for it.
Okay. So we appreciate it, Tom. And looking forward to being in the St. Louis area. We're going to be cycling to Houston from Evanston. And I'd like to talk to you what got us here right now where we are talking to you folks. And we're preparing for our start off on Saturday. So hopefully you'll enjoy what I have to say, some of the stories that come across and stories of my journey in diabetes. So let me get started by perhaps sharing the screen. I do have sharing capability, right, Tom?
David?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Oh, good. I think I got it. That's good. So let me go ahead and do this. All right. You all see this okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll start with a short video clip that I used to promote the ride from London to Hamburg, Germany, a couple of years ago. Interesting. I'll do that again. Let's see what we could do. Diabetes. I was diagnosed at age 29. For decades, I struggled to control my blood glucose. A few years ago, a good friend gave me a bike. This sparked me to find a new nutrition program. Now, my blood glucose is stable and have found new energy I never thought existed. Diabetes. 422 million people have diabetes around the world, while nearly half are undiagnosed. 3.8 million deaths are caused by diabetes and high blood glucose. Diabetes. We are amidst a global diabetes epidemic. If you and I don't do anything about it, the future numbers will grow exponentially. This is my epic journey against diabetes. One Rotarian on a bicycle from the great city of London, United Kingdom, to the Rotary International Convention in Hamburg, Germany. To to connect Rotarians and raise awareness about diabetes. Having type 1 diabetes, I know I cannot change. I hope we can change one life. Well, that's always a emotional little clip for me. Every time I play that, I always think about the rest of the world, how they're dealing with their diabetes burden. I heard a story in when I was at the convention over in South Korea. I believe it was then President Ravi Ravindian that told the story, and I, barely understood what he was talking about, but I thought it was pretty interesting, the end of it. So I researched it, and now I'm using it as part of my talk everywhere I go, because I think it's something that's very, very appropriate and very, very inspiring. Anyway, there was a king. The story goes, there was a king that was given 2 peregrine falcons. It was the most beautiful birds that the king has ever seen. So he got his head falconer to train the birds. After about a few months, 3-4 months, head falconer came back to the king and said, Your Majesty, that one of the falcons is doing very well, flying majestically as it should, and has been responding to all my training. And I was very, very happy about that. The other, however, has not moved from the branch since the day it arrived in my possession. I tried everything that I could, all the knowledge that I know on how to train a falcon, but I could not do anything to make this falcon fly. So I'm very sorry. I have to apologize that I cannot help any further. See, the king was very upset. He couldn't believe that this was happening. You would too, because if you understood that the peregrine falcon is the fastest animal on the planet, it could have speed, it could fly at speeds of 200 miles per hour and the top speed of about 240. That's Indianapolis blinding speed. Don't you agree? With that kind of ability, the peregrine falcon has some amazing qualities. It has an amazing heart, strong heart. It could beat from 600 to 900 beats per minute, sending the proper resources throughout its body that it needs throughout intense flight. Now, at that speed, just imagine the air. Air could damage, it's going to be difficult for breathing, and it could damage the lungs. But the peregrine falcon has this amazing specialized cone-shaped bones in its nostrils called baffles to regulate incoming air for breathing. Now, on the side here, this particular quality is so elegant that if you look at modern engines now, they have adopted this particular design from the peregrine falcon. Now, those eyes could probably go through quite a bit of beating at 200 miles per hour. Well, it could damage, the littlest debris could damage the eye, and it could dry it up, and it will just be blinded, and it will not go nowhere to go, right? Well, the peregrine falcon has a third eyelid that clears and lubricates the eyes, giving it the ability to stay focused on whatever it sets its eyes onto. The king was thinking about it. I have to get the most out of this bird and be able to reach its potential. So perhaps what I need is somebody that knows the lay of the land, knows the countryside. I think I'm going to go get the most producing farmer in my kingdom to do this. So he assigned him the task. Amazingly, the following morning, as he looked out the palace window, he saw 2 peregrine falcons flying majestically above the palace gardens and put a smile to his face. He thought, wow, this is it. This is what I've been looking for, and this is amazing. What a gift that I got here. But he started thinking, how did the farmer do it? How did he make this one, stable falcon? So he called the farmer and asked him. Farmer answered to him and said, Your Majesty, what I did was I looked at the tree, I came closer to the tree. As I get even closer, and when I thought it was close enough, I cut the branch and fly the falcon went. Still puts a smile on my face every time I tell the story. My dear fellow Rotarians, we're all made to fly to realize our incredible potential as human beings. But many times we sit on our branches, clinging to the things that are familiar. We conform to the popular, the comfortable, and the convenient. We all know that. The possibilities are endless, but for many of us, they remain undiscovered. As David had mentioned, I was diagnosed with diabetes at age 29. And at the time, my physician had told me that she thought I was about 65 with the numbers that she saw. And she was shaking her head. I was a walking heart attack. She was shaking her head and she said that, Edwin, if we don't do anything about it, things will get a lot worse. With the word worst, her eyes widened and looked at me. And so she put me on a regimen, some medication, told me what I needed to do, morning, afternoons, and the evenings. And after about a few months, about 4 months, she said that things were not working out. And I will need to have insulin injections, shots regularly. At age 29, that was probably the worst thing I've ever heard. First of all, I didn't even realize I had diabetes. At least I didn't know at the time. Even though my family had a long history of diabetes. My grandfather, Victorio, was a double amputee. My Uncle Jose lost his battle to kidney failure. Uncle Mauro had a massive heart attack in the tennis courts. My mom had gestational diabetes when she was pregnant with me. Knew her all my life having diabetes. We lost her to a massive heart attack as well. All these were caused by the diabetes that I have been suffering with. Even though I had this long history, I still could not believe what the physician was telling me. So I lived my life, but I have to do something about it. I had to adhere to the, suggestion of my physician. So what happens is every morning I would test my blood sugar. Well, I'll poke my finger, test my blood sugar. In the afternoon, I'll do the same thing before meals. And then in the evening, I'll do the same thing. I'll poke my finger again. Every night, I will give myself injections of a basal insulin. That's a long-term insulin that's supposed to take effect for about 24 hours. And then before every meal, I do my test. And depending on the level and the food that I'm about to eat, I give myself varying dose of bolus insulin to cover whatever I'm eating. I did all this throughout my adult life and raised our kids. Just have to accept that a family man will not have as much energy as it is when you were much younger. And I didn't. I hardly get any complete sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night having to go to the bathroom, or sometimes I have to wake up and reach for a snack to remedy hyperglycemia. In the afternoon after lunch, I look for the strongest cup of coffee to keep myself awake, which by the way never really worked, but it was a thing to have, is caffeine, right? And so live this life, and then so people understand what diabetes is all about and why all that symptoms that was getting still while I'm treating myself. See, diabetes is a condition in which the human body does not efficiently use for type 2 or unable to produce enough insulin for type 1. Now, insulin, for some of you may think that it's a medication or a therapy, but it is the key hormone that's naturally produced by people that's not suffering from diabetes. It helps metabolize nutrition to energy. So if you could imagine that, when you have diabetes, it's not managed properly. whatever you are eating for nutrition is not being converted to energy, so it stays in your bloodstreams, okay? And that has some effects to it as well if you keep the blood sugar high. Now, diabetes has a lot of complications. High blood glucose can cause damage to nerves, blood vessels, and organs. You see, diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure. No one can even compete. Not another disease can compete. Diabetes is the leading cause of blindness among working adults. Diabetes is the leading cause of non-trauma lower limb amputations. Now, emergency rooms around the world are riddled with people suffering from heart attack and stroke, only to find out that they have elevated blood glucose level and they have diabetes. In 2013, I became president of my club, but going into that year during training, somehow a good friend of mine, my golf buddy, I hear you folks talking about golf here, so you all would understand. My golf buddy is, him and I are very competitive. We golf every time we do holidays everywhere. We've done Scotland, many times in Hawaii, and all that, all over the United States. And we are very, very competitive. So he said, you know, Edwin, I'm upgrading to a carbon bike. I've taken up cycling, but I'm going to give you my aluminum bike. And I said, you know, why not? I have room in the garage. It's free, man. You know, I'll go take it. And he looked at me and says, you know, it's not for the garage, Edwin. You're going to have to take up cycling. And it was a challenge for me to have cycling, you know, do cycling with him. So I said, you know what? Okay. I mean, I think I could take this guy, and I've taken him in golf. And the next week, I started cycling with a new acquired bike around the Conejo Valley area where I live. A bit hilly, but not really that hilly. So I thought, after about a 1 mile, my legs, my calves were cramping, my knees were shaking, and I just couldn't go on. I had to call my, you know, the best Uber service in the world, my wife. I told her, Christina, you're gonna have to pick me up. I can't ride this bike back home. And you know, guys, you know how our wives are. They love us very much. But she told me, Edwin, I'm doing errands. You're gonna have to walk your bike home. Okay. And I said, I mean, what do you do, right? When the wife says that, you have to do that. So I walked back home with my bike on cleats, Tom. Okay. And it was the longest mile walk that I've ever done in my entire life, to this day even, because I was so upset. I was embarrassed. I mean, I think if my shoulder drooped any lower, I would have been dragging my shoulder back home as well. Okay. And I was mad at myself because I was not that old, and I should be able to ride a bike around town without any issues, right? And so I challenged myself and said, you know what, you're gonna have to do better. You're gonna have to do, you know, take care of yourself. So I started riding regularly. Oh boy, week in and week out, I started riding longer. The 1 mile became 3, and then became 5, 10, 20 miles. Boy, I was really I was booking. And then as happy as I was, something started happening. I was scary. I was experiencing extreme hypoglycemia. You all know what the normal blood sugar is, between 80 to 120. I was experiencing about 40 mgdl, and it was the worst thing, you know. Hypoglycemia, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies. I would be shaking, sweating, none, you know, like that. All my energy has been sucked out of me, and I would only have enough presence of mind. Oh, my vision will be dimming. Okay, you wake up and you see that you turn on the lights and nothing. You know, it's just getting dimmer and dimmer, and I will only have enough presence of mind to nudge my wife and to say the 2 H words. We get about this 2 H words all the time because she, you know. Anyway, it's hypo and help. and she will go run down and get some sugary snacks and save my life. This has happened many times. She's by the way, folks, hug your wives because they will save your lives. Okay. And so my physician said, you know, you got to take it easy on cycling, and when you got to back off. You can't be doing this thing, with your condition. Eat more before going to bed, and just seriously, just back off on the cycling. And that doesn't make any sense to me because I'm trying to make myself healthy during the day, and then I would be dying at night. That doesn't sound right. So I became a student of my condition. I studied diabetes, read up a lot of articles, read up a lot about papers, understood what diabetes is truly all about. What is the deficiency with diabetes? Studied about insulin. What is its function? What is it for? What is it used for as medication or even as naturally produced? Looked into different nutrition programs. Looked at vegetarianism, pescatarianism, keto, paleo. Discovered protein, carbs, building blocks, energy sources, macronutrients, so on and so forth. Then slowly, when I got the confidence, I tried out different things for my nutrition with different cycling intensity. And after many months of trying, I eliminated hypoglycemia at night. It was great. It was success. But what's even more beautiful than that is I eliminated my need for basal insulin by 80%. And my bolus, I hardly ever used my bolus insulin anymore. I had so much energy. I was writing more and more. I wrote a lot of centuries during that time. And started writing 50, 75, 100 miles. And became a leader of my club. I had energy I never thought existed. And I felt like that one peregrine falcon has got its branch broken off. And it was great. Strong man, Edwin. But later on, I got depressed. Would you believe that? I thought about the times where I didn't know that I could be as healthy as I am at the time. I thought about the times I missed spending with my children, my family, my wife, because of lack of energy. I thought about my other things that I do in life, the business, the energy, the things I could have been doing. And I realized that I can't turn the hand of time back. So I started researching about diabetes around the world. And what I found out was something that I really never thought I would ever understand. Folks, the global diabetes epidemic is very real. Now, if you can imagine that the last 3 decades from the 1980s, okay, actually more than that now, the number of people with diabetes have quadrupled. The video that I showed you says 422 million people, but the latest study shows that 537 million now are suffering from diabetes. Now, the 422, I got that research maybe a few years ago, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And imagine how much that increased now. 50% don't only have the condition. Now, the 3.8 million that I mentioned in the video that perishes from diabetes and high blood glucose, it's now at 6.7. That number came out of us research just no more than 5 years ago. Let's imagine how many people are dying from it. Now, so I started this advocacy project, the Epic Journey Against Diabetes. I've done rides. I know that you have written something up in your newsletter. It's Busan to Seoul, South Korea, Chicago to Atlanta, Toronto. Tom has ridden with me in the very beginning and also at the end of that. In Hamburg, Tom ridden with me. I think he was touring Northern Europe at the time, and then we met up in Hamburg and rode there again. It's major. The main purpose of this project is to raise awareness of diabetes, its perils, and the global diabetes epidemic in the Rotary world and beyond, actually. whoever wants to listen to what I have to say and learn about diabetes epidemic, they're all welcome to be part of the audience. Did you all know that we have a diabetes belt in America? Well, you can see all that darker color. That's the latest numbers is about 14% in some counties for rate of diabetes. If you look at that, you know where Missouri is at. And we're not very far from the thick of the diabetes belt. And in it, interestingly, if you look at down the south area, more towards is that Georgia and on towards to Florida. If you look towards the west a little bit, there's a patch. I believe that's near the Grand Canyon area. There's also some problems with diabetes there, and some in the north and all the tip of the East Coast. Now, in 2017, I rode from Paul Harris's Rotary Club, Rotary One, and rode through the states of Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Georgia, and then ended up in Atlanta.
California man is riding his bike from Chicago to Atlanta to show people that having diabetes doesn't have to slow you down. Edwin Valerde he left Chicago on Tuesday. Today, he made a stop in downtown Lafayette to have lunch and to visit with his cousin who lives in the area. His wife and son are joining him in their car for the entire 800-mile trip. Valerde struggled with diabetes for more than 20 years until he began riding his bike for exercise about 3 years ago. He says he cut his insulin intake by 85% and is now in control of the disease.
There are times that we don't have a choice of having diabetes, but we do have a choice in making it part of our lives, own it, and then work with it, and you're able to live a better quality of life. We were fortunate enough to be covered by WLFI when we were passing through Lafayette, and it was one of the things that we enjoyed very much. Actually got a lot of phone calls from many Rotarians right after that broadcast. It was great. In 2018, then President Ian H.S. Risley, Tom, you remember this, right? He was there to talk to me and wish me off during the epic journey, and some of the leaders of Rotary and Rotary staff from Wisconsin, all over the Chicagoland area, Missouri. Tom was there, you represented Missouri. We rode around town, visited a diabetes center over in Humboldt Park. And then in Sarnia, a PDG, Tanya Wolf, have gathered some people, some Rotarians, and they rode with me from the border of the United States to the birthplace of insulin, the Banting House in London, Ontario. Now, this is something interesting. Sir Frederick Banting is an amazing man. He sold his patent to insulin by a mere $1. Now, that may sound familiar to a lot of Rotarians. If you remember Dr. Jonas Salk, okay, the discoverer of the very first polio vaccine. We're all familiar with that. I think the two of them are cut from the same cloth, and they're one of the guys at the top of my list of people that I look up to. 2019, I was fortunate enough to be able to finish this, a ride from London through Kent, across the Channel, and then parts of France, the Flanders region of Belgium, and then Holland and Germany. Now, interestingly, we engaged a lot of Rotarians, district Rotarians all throughout the UK and Northern Europe. We had a symposium in the University of Antwerp and also in the town of Zwolle. Interesting, in the town of Zwolle, 3 Rotary clubs were inspired by this project to put together this symposium. They have gathered, I think, close to half a dozen other experts on diabetes, and they have the community attended that. It was a dinner symposium. And then Rotary International.
Members are arriving from around the world. We're delighted to meet Edwin, who just arrived in Hamburg after riding his bike to help raise global awareness for diabetes.
The challenges of diabetes and the challenges of actually completing a 1,200-kilometer ride. It feels really good, and it's an honor to see you folks and to be here in Hamburg.
That was kind of neat having to be covered by the social media group of Rotary International. Now, here's a little snippet that I'd like to share with you folks. The Western Pacific region is probably the worst place for diabetes. About 37%, that's over a third of the people living with diabetes, find their home in this region. And they have the most deaths as well for diabetes. Now, I found out about this and here, let me show you the top 5. The top 4, it's hard to engage because of language barriers. I was able to communicate with people, Rotarians in the Philippines. Now, in the Philippines, experts are predicting that 100,000 Filipinos will die from diabetes each year by 2045. I talked to some people there and said, we did an epic journey there, a brief one, and we were able to engage a 6 to 8, 20, I believe is the district. And we engaged maybe 7 or 8 Rotary clubs in this ride, and we stopped at every one of them. We had a symposium at one of the medical center, and the people that attended, I put to them that think about this, if a foreign country was to announce that they will come to the Philippines and kill, 100,000 Filipinos every year, we'll probably do something about it. And that's something that I kind of drew their attention to diabetes. Even the doctor was saying, well, if you put it that way, yes, we have to do something about it. And so we were able to do that. We were fortunate to have about 6 or so publications in 3 different languages that we had been covered by the press: English, Filipino, and Chinese. And then we had some a radio talk show that interviewed me when I was there. This was in 2019. Now, talking about the Action Group for Diabetes, I'm not sure if you've heard about that. Tom, you've mentioned a little bit about the Action Group to your club. Now, we are here, our purpose is to really raise awareness to Rotary, about the global diabetes epidemic. And we're here to inspire, provide guidance, and whatever we can do to promote, assist, and support Rotary humanitarian projects that address our 5 areas of focus. Now, you wonder, what is the 5 areas of focus? Well, we modeled this after Rotary's, 6 areas of focus, and now 7. Well, the 5 areas of focus organizes the thoughts and the minds of people that are looking into this. We look at awareness. Now, this is still outdated at 463 million people. Just imagine if we were to make the people that don't know they have diabetes aware. Imagine that they could at least do something about it. Imagine how many lives we could save from half of the 537 million people. With that alone, I think we could do our jobs as Rotarians to humanity. Prevention. The WHO talks about the complexity of the cause of diabetes. We all know the increasing obesity in our population, not only here in the United States, but around the world. Widespread lack of physical activity. Rotary clubs could be promoting, active lifestyles. Treatment. We all complain about treatments here in the United States that things are getting expensive, but only 1 in 2 have access of life-saving insulin and other diabetes treatments, especially in developing countries. Something we could do something about as Rotarians. Management. As I could attest, you could have treatments, but if you don't manage your condition the right way, according to the one of the organizations, I believe it's Kidney Associations, Kidney Disease Association, said that out of the people that are trying to treat themselves, only 20% meet their proper numbers. So there's that 80% they're able to treat that's not really treating themselves or managing themselves properly. We could go into that as well and help the people that are not understanding how to manage themselves. Complications, we talk about complications today. You know, some people that have suffered from kidney failures, a loss of limb, blindness. These are the things that are not unfamiliar to Rotarians. We could be helping people become contributing members of society once again. So in closing, I just want to share with you folks that I believe Rotarians are the peregrine falcons of the world. Every one of us, because of all the good things we do around the world. We have amazing hearts, much like the peregrine falcons. Have the ability to stay focused on whatever we set our eyes onto. Polio eradication project, look at that. From the times when we started that back in the mid-80s to now, we're just about done. We have resources. We have knowledge. We can put governments and public health expertise and organizations together. The world needs Rotarians, my friends. We have to stay healthy. It is important that we do that. Let me repeat it. It is very, very, very important that we stay healthy to continue to do more good in the world, especially these days. And I truly believe the Rotary world, us Rotarians, with all my heart, if we join hands together, as Rotarians, we could take on the global diabetes epidemic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Edwin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, thank you. I hope you heard all that I have to say. But
The Rotary Club is one of the highest performing Rotary clubs with respect to the foundation in the world, year in, year out.
Good. I'm going up to Chicago on Friday morning, and I'll meet Edwin and a few other people Friday afternoon for a little social ride, and Saturday morning we head out. I'm gonna ride with a group from basically Evanston to Joliet, Illinois, and then Sunday, Joliet down to Bloomington, Normal, and I get back to reality, come back Sunday night. And Edwin will continue on. I've helped with some Rotary friends from Illinois side to arrange some housing on the Illinois side. And we're trying to get him into the St. Louis Club 11 for a brief visit. And, then I'll meet up with them in Houston on June 3rd. I get into the morning of the 3rd, and we'll somehow get up to work, Cairo, Texas, and ride in. And I'll tell everybody I rode the entire way from Cairo, Texas.
Is it the truth? Come on.
So Tom, you know, you promised we're going to do a bike tour with us to show some of the best barbecue joints in St. Louis. It would be nice to see some of your members to join us and have some fellowship around that time. I just really look forward to meeting other Rotarians throughout this trip.
Very good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So is there any questions about diabetes, what I had to say? Anybody?
Did you change your diet in some ways?
Yes, very much so. I found that this nutrition program that it's huge. The nutrition program that I did is really just amazing with the cycling lifestyle. You know, being Asian, you know, we do eat a lot of that white stuff, you know, on our plate, right? And now I still eat them, but depending on what I need it for. Some of my family calls me, you know, it's sacrilege that I'm not eating as much rice anymore, you know, and, you know, I'll come visit, you know, my family, and they say, you know what, rice is not good enough for you anymore. Imagine all the people that are starving over in China, you know. So, but I do eat rice whenever I need to, especially if we're riding, you know, 100 miles for the day or 120 kilometers, whatever it is. You know, carbs and rice are something that helps me. I just understand now, you know, when I need to eat certain things and what nutrition is about, you know, what is energy source, what's building blocks, all that other good stuff. And it's quite liberating, actually, with my energy level.
Have you come across the book Mastering Diabetes by Cyrus Kambata and Robbie, another hard name, I don't know.
Yeah, I've read some books and all that, and then, but I'm more of a, I guess a trial or a physical person, have to try things out. I read a lot of papers, scientific papers. I'm a nerd at that. I would read it all night and try to understand what they're talking about. And so I know the physiology behind what, diabetes is all about. So it kind of helped me. And actually, that's something that I kind of try to inspire on other people that are suffering from diabetes, is to understand their bodies. Because what's good for me with my lifestyle is may be very different. There was a lady that asked me a question in the Philippines. And so, Mr. Valerde, what do I eat? And I said, let me ask you a question with that question. Would the farmer eat the same thing as what a teacher would be eating? Would a construction worker should be eating the same thing as what a computer programmer would be eating? So I ask you that question and understand where you are in that spectrum of lifestyle, and then understand what you have to eat, right? So that's why I always talk about. Okay.
On the medical side of things, the treatments of diabetes have undergone a lot of improvement, probably more so than anything else.
Yes.
You're right about stuff being very expensive. Most of the treatments these days, before insurance, are $400 to $800 a month.
Yes.
On that stuff. So, even though your copay might be $25, the health system paying for it, which you eventually pay for.
Yeah, it's very, very expensive. You imagine the people that aren't able to get healthcare insurance, right? Tom, you know this, right? Imagine what they have to go through. Some of them ration insulin or ration any medication, and it's not helping them any. Things are being expensive, but we have to understand that there's different types of insulin. For instance, I'll give you a little example. There's the original Humalog and NPH and the earlier type of insulin. They still work. Okay. And during emergencies where I run out and I'm in the middle, and doing travel, I would get that. It is somewhat over the counter over in Walmart. So I will use that, and they still work. And they're like, $20 a vial. It's not very expensive. But the way things are with healthcare, they actually have this rule that anything that's the most current is what physicians should be offering their patients. So they end up being expensive. After a little while, even metformin, if you folks remember metformin, now there's a generic version of that. It's much cheaper now than what it was before. So it's just the way the system works that makes it expensive. But given that, imagine the people that they can't afford, a treatment around the world, let alone some of them don't even have this available. Now imagine in the middle of Africa or in South America, they don't have the refrigerator to maintain the proper temperature for insulin. How do they even survive, right? I'm part of a group that talking about Ethiopia, helping them out. But we talked about so how do they treat diabetes now in Ethiopia? And they said they don't. And so what happens to the kids that get type 1 diabetes and all that? So, well, they just fade. Parents just watch their kids fade. And it's something that as parents, we do understand how that feels, right? So it's good to talk about the United States, but when we have a little snivel, the rest of the world has got, the flu, if you get my meaning there.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Edwin.
Thank you very much for having me, folks. This is great. I hope to see some of you when we come by St. Louis.
Good. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, a couple quick things before our drawing. Just a reminder, this is matching month for the foundation. So I'd like to make a donation. Club will match the points. Help for fellowship.
We're pretty close to our 1,000.
Okay.
And if we get to that over, we may delay until the next year.
144.
After me.
That's
You.
Ryan.
So let's see.
Okay.
Oh.
Where's that joke? Works better if they get cards from me now.
You're trusting, you know.
Yep, sorry.
All right.
Keep rolling.